Tu Tien is shaking in the fog when someone purrs. James Nguyen, Jack whispers. Blink once if you can keep going. And she gives him one blink.
James Nguyen!
Hours later, he finds her SIM card buried in stove ash. And one burnt word remains. Anna.
Does the number match?
My stomach drops.
Found it.
Because
No,
that isn't bad
matches.
luck. It's a warning aimed
It
at a
has to be from
child.
his phone.
Stay with me.
James
Because
Nguyen.
what Jack does next to protect this family is chilling. The fog is still clinging to their clothes when that voice slides through it, calm, almost playful. James Nguyen,
All right,
not
let's go.
hey, not stop, not shouting,
All right,
just his full name,
finally.
like a hand closing around a wrist. Jack doesn't give it the satisfaction of a flinch. He keeps his shoulders level and his steps measured. But his body does one thing you can't fake. He shifts closer to Tu Tien so she's half a step behind him, tucked into the safest pocket of space he can make on a mountain trail.
Just fog.
Tu Tien's fingers are curled so hard into her sleeves. Her knuckles look pale. Her
Stay
breaths come thin and high, like her lungs forgot
They
they're
followed
allowed
me.
to fill. Every time a branch cracks under Jack's shoe,
low.
she jerks like it's a warning shot. He lowers his voice to the smallest instruction that still feels like a lifeline.
Thank you, Jack.
Blink twice if you want to
They
stop,
anticipated
he
you.
murmurs, eyes
They
forward.
used your kindness as
I
a
blink
calendar.
once if you can keep going. Her lashes flutter
Is
once.
the mountain woman saved?
One. So they keep going. And here's the part that gets me.
Is the mountain woman saved?
Jack doesn't do the movie thing. He doesn't spin around and yell, "Who's there?" He doesn't challenge the fog like it's a person you can intimidate back. He treats it like weather. Like a problem you survive by being boring and steady when the motorbike idles again behind them, then cuts out. The silence returns too fast. So clean it feels staged. Tu Tien hears that silence and her throat tightens, because silence like that isn't peace. It's someone waiting. By the time they reach the car, her face is shiny with that cold sweat that comes from inside, not from heat. Jack moves like he's done this 1,000 times, keys in hand already. No fumbling. He opens the passenger door, helps Tu Tien slide in, pulls the seatbelt across her with gentle efficiency, clicks it in, locks the door. Click. That sound is small, but it lands like a promise. You're not exposed anymore. He circles to the driver's side, gets in, shuts his door, and only then, only after the engine catches, does he let out a breath. Controlled. Quiet. Like he refuses to waste oxygen on panic. Tu Tien stares straight ahead, eyes wide on the road through the windshield, like she's afraid if she looks sideways, she'll see the mountain in the glass. "Oh, they followed me," she whispers. The words tear out like they've been stuck behind her teeth all day. Jack keeps his tone low, firm, almost gentle. They anticipated you," he corrects. "They used your kindness as a calendar." That line, that's not anger, that's clarity. That's a man taking the shame off her shoulders and putting the blame where it belongs. Tu Tien swallows hard. "Grandma, the woman who saved me," she says, and her voice breaks on the word saved. Is she safe? Jack doesn't do false comfort. He does the safest truth. "I don't know," he says, "but we left supplies, money, and a message, and now we do the next right thing." We protect you. On the way down, he doesn't take the main road. He changes routes once, then again, like he's drawing invisible zigzags through the countryside. He stops at a roadside stall with a glass door, not to buy anything, not to chat, just long enough to stand in front of that glass and watch the reflection behind. Them. Tu Tien notices. Her hands are twisted in her lap, nails digging half moons into her palm. Are we being followed? Jack looks at her for half a second, just long enough to anchor her. His eyes are steady. His voice is steady. I'm checking, he says. You don't need to. That sentence is a gift, and every woman listening knows why. Because healing isn't only about feeling safe. It's about not having to perform vigilance all day. It's about your body finally being allowed to rest. By the time they reach the farm, the sky is dimming into that gray blue that makes everything feel quieter than it is. The porch light is already on, steady, yellow, stubborn. Mom Loy opens the door before Jack even knocks. Her mouth tries to form a normal smile, but her eyes are tight with worry. The kind you wear when you've been staring at the driveway too long. Anna stands behind her with that little tin box of care cards clutched to her chest like a medic bag. Her shoulders are drawn up like she's trying to take up less space, like she knows her mother's nervous system is fragile. Tu Tien steps inside, and for one breath the warmth almost works. Rice, soap, ginger. That safe, ordinary house smell wraps around her like a blanket. Then her eyes catch the porch light still burning, and something in her face softens, just a fraction, like her body recognizes. We're home. We're visible. We're not in the fog anymore. Jack doesn't bring the mountain into the doorway. He doesn't announce the danger like it deserves a seat at the table. He carries the backpack to the kitchen, places it on the counter, and gives Mom Loy one clean sentence: structure, not drama. Tea first, he says, then dinner, then early sleep. Mom Loy nods fast, grateful. She can follow instructions. She can make tea. She can keep the house steady with her hands. Tu Tien sinks onto the couch with a blanket pulled over her knees. Anna climbs up beside her carefully, no jumping, no startling, and rests her small shoulder against her mother's arm like she's making contact with a wounded person. Anna whispers, voice tiny. Mommy, blink twice if you want me to stop hugging. Tu Tien's eyes fill so fast it's like her body was waiting for permission to cry. She blinks once, and she wraps her arms around Anna like she's holding on to the only thing real. Jack watches them, and his face does that thing men do when they're trying not to let emotion leak. Jaw tight, eyes fixed on something else, shoulders too still. Then he turns away and does the part Tu Tien can't see. In the kitchen, under the brighter light, he opens the inner pocket of his jacket. His movements are careful, almost surgical, like he's handling something that could contaminate the whole house. He pulls out a tiny SIM card. He pulls out a charred strip of paper, blackened edges, brittle, like it could fall apart if you breathe wrong. One word is still readable: Anna. I don't know how to explain the feeling of that without your stomach doing the same drop mine did. Because that isn't random. That's not, we found some debris. That's a message aimed at a little girl sitting 5 feet away, hugging her mother on the couch. Jack doesn't swear. He doesn't slam his hand. He doesn't let anger get loud, because loud anger wakes up fear. And this house is trying to teach Tu Tien quiet again. He snaps photos under the kitchen light, hands steady, then seals both items into a small zip bag and tucks it into a metal tin behind the rice jar, high, hidden, nowhere Anna's curious fingers will ever reach. Then he checks his phone. 1 bar of signal, and there it is. His unsent message to Officer Thu, sitting on the screen like a loaded question. Jack doesn't call from inside. He walks out the back door into the yard where the night air is colder and the porch light doesn't reach. His steps are soft, like even the trees don't deserve to see him shaken. He dials. Officer Thu answers on the second ring. "Hut, you're back," she says. Statement, not question. Jack speaks in the language they've already agreed on. Clean facts, no drama. Mountain house was empty. Door locked. Fresh ash disturbance. He says, "I found Tu Tien's SIM card in stove ash and a charred strip with 1 word. Anna. We left supplies and cash under a stone. While leaving, a motorbike idled in fog. A male voice called my full name." There's a pause on the line. Half a second of silence that tells you she understands exactly what this means. Then Thu's voice sharpens. "You have the SIM card with you?" "Yes." "Do not insert it," she says immediately. "If it's active, it can ping towers. If it's bait, it links your location." Jack's grip tightens around the phone. "Understood. Any tire tracks?" "1 line through wet dirt near the threshold," Jack says, and then a shallow scratch mark on the door frame. 4 lines, like a crude knot. Thu inhales once. "That's a marker," she says. "When we treat this as active intimidation, I'm sending a team to do a welfare check on the old woman, quietly, no uniforms." Jack closes his eyes for a heartbeat. "Good." And Jack. Thu adds, lower now. "Tonight your priority is Tu Tien's nervous system. You do not tell her what the SIM card could mean. You let her sleep." Jack looks through the kitchen window. Tu Tien is on the couch, blanket up to her chest, Anna's head resting heavy in her lap. Mom Loy is laying out bowls like it's a sacred ritual. The porch light glows steady over all of them. "I know," Jack says. "That's why I called you from outside." Thu pauses. "One more thing," she says. "That voice calling your full name. Do you recognize it?" Jack's chest goes tight because his mind flashes to that voicemail. 1 breath. 1 word. The same cold confidence. And he opens his mouth to answer, right as the porch light flickers once, like a blink, then steadies again. And Jack realizes he is about to say something out, loud that could change the way this family sleeps tonight. Jack keeps the phone pressed to his ear, eyes on that porch light like it's a heartbeat he can measure. It flickers once, then steadies, and in that tiny flicker, you can almost see the choice in his face. Tell the truth that burns, or protect the nervous system that's finally starting to unclench on that couch. He swallows it down. "I don't recognize the voice," he says carefully, "but I recognize the style." On the other end, Officer Thu doesn't waste words. The style is leverage, she replies. Families are easy. That sentence lands like a stone in the pit of the stomach. Jack's jaw tightens. He keeps his voice flat on purpose. We change patterns. Starting now? Thu says. No predictable routes, no repeated market days, no solo trips, no unknown numbers. Keep the porch light on. I'll send you a protocol list. Send it, Jack says. He ends the call and stands outside for 10 seconds longer than he needs to, just long enough to bury the pressure where Tu Tien can't feel it through the walls. He looks up at the dark trees, breath making a pale cloud, and you can tell this isn't fear on his face. It's restraint. Then he goes back inside like nothing happened, because inside, the house is trying to be a house. Mom Loy has the kettle going. The lid rattles softly, a steady kitchen sound that tells your brain, normal. Normal, normal. The table is set with bowls like they're doing something holy instead of something ordinary. Tu Tien sits on the couch with the blanket pulled up, one hand resting on Anna's hair. Anna's eyes are half closed, still clinging to that tin box of care cards like it's a shield. Jack doesn't say mountain. He doesn't say motorbike. He doesn't say SIM card. He doesn't drag fog into the living room. He just steps close enough for Tu Tien to hear him without anyone else hearing. And he says one sentence that's designed to settle her body. Tea is coming, he murmurs. You're home. Tu Tien nods once. Her throat moves like she's swallowing something sharp. Dinner is simple on purpose. Light soup, rice, a small plate of vegetables. Nothing heavy that makes the stomach churn. Nothing spicy that makes the heart race. Mom Loy serves it like an offering, hands steady even though her eyes keep darting to Tu Tien's face. Anna watches her mother the way children watch weather, trying to predict storms. At one point, Anna whispers, "Mommy, are you mad at yourself?" Tu Tien's eyes drop to her bowl. Her spoon trembles against the ceramic. "I'm sorry," she whispers. Like apology is the only language she has left when she's scared. Jack's head lifts instantly. His voice firms, but stays soft, controlled, gentle enough not to spike anyone's pulse. "No apologies," he says. "Not in this house." And something about that, it's not a slogan. It's a boundary. It's him saying, you don't carry the blame for what someone else is doing to you. After dinner, he guides her through grounding without calling it therapy, because he knows labels can make people feel broken. He just makes it a game, a routine, a quiet ritual. "Tell me 5 things you see," he says, sitting across from her at the table. Tu Tien blinks hard, forcing her eyes to land on objects instead of memories. "Lamp," she says. "Blanket. Anna's crayons. The calendar. Your hand. 4 things you can touch." She swallows. "Cup. Fabric. The couch. My phone. 3 things you hear." The house hums. The kettle cooling. A spoon in a sink. Anna's small breathing. 2 things you smell. "Ginger," she whispers. "Soap." 1 thing you taste. Tu Tien presses her tongue to her teeth. "Tea." And you can actually hear it, her breathing lowering by fractions, like a body remembering how to come back to a room. Jack walks her to the bedroom like you walk someone recovering from a fever. The hallway light stays on low. The porch light stays on steady. He places the new phone on the bedside table and checks it one more time. Only 2 contacts pinned where her thumb can find them without thinking. Jack and Officer Thu. No unknown calls. No surprises. Tu Tien lies down and turns her face into the pillow, exhausted in that deep way where sleep feels like surrender. "If I sleep," she whispers, voice muffled, "will it happen again?" Jack sits on the edge of the bed. He doesn't grab her hand like he's trying to claim her fear. He places his palm near hers, close enough that she can reach if she wants to. A quiet offer. "No," he says. "If anything tries, it goes through me first." Her eyes close, and for a while, the house holds. But Jack doesn't sleep. He goes back to the kitchen and sits at the table under the bare light. The rest of the house is quiet. Too quiet. The kind of quiet that makes your ears hunt for danger. He opens a notebook. And this is the part that makes my throat tighten, because you can see what kind of man he is. He doesn't write poetry. He writes structure. He writes safety like it's a construction plan. In clean block letters, he writes, "Healing is the inside. Security is the outside." Then he writes rules underneath, short and practical, like bullets meant to catch fear before it reaches the bedroom door. No solo trips, no predictable routes, no unknown numbers, no public posts. One-sentence check-ins. Porch light on, tea, water, sleep, every day. He pauses, pen hovering, and you can almost hear him choosing his next breath carefully. Because here's the truth he's living with. If he tells Tu Tien about the SIM card and that burnt word, Anna, her body will go right back to the mountain. Her heart will race. Her hands will shake. She'll stop sleeping. She'll start scanning windows, and the people doing this want that, so he doesn't let them have it. He folds the protocol list Officer Thu texted over, printed later, tucked into the drawer beside the tea bags where only he can reach. He moves through the kitchen like a man turning a home into a fortress without making it feel like a prison. Then, very quietly, he checks the locks. Front door, back door, windows. He doesn't rattle handles. He doesn't slam latches. He does it with 2 fingers, silent as a promise. And when he passes the rice jar, his eyes flick to the spot behind it, where that metal tin sits hidden with the SIM card and the charred strip sealed away. Anna, a child's name burned onto paper like a threat. Jack's throat tightens, and for the first time all night, anger rises, hot, sharp, wanting to be loud. But he swallows it again, because loud anger leaks. Loud anger wakes the house. Loud anger teaches children that danger is in the air. So he does something else instead. He steps to the doorway and looks at the porch light glowing steady in the dark. He stands there for a full 10 seconds, hand resting on the doorframe, and you can almost feel what he's thinking. You can call my name in the fog all you want. You don't get my family. Then he walks back to the table, adds one final line under the rules, small, almost like a whisper on paper. If they want us afraid, we give them boring. And that's the emotional peak right there, because it tells you everything about him. He's not trying to be brave for applause. He's trying to be steady so his wife can sleep, so his daughter can wake up and eat breakfast, and think the biggest problem in her life is crayons on the couch. The next morning, the house moves like a careful machine. Mom Loy boils water, ginger slices on the cutting board. The smell fills the kitchen before anyone says a word. Anna sits at the table with her tin box open, sorting care cards like she's doing inventory. Tu Tien shuffles in, wearing Jack's old sweater, sleeves too long, hair messy from sleep. She looks fragile, but she's standing. That matters. Jack slides a cup of tea toward her. Not dramatic, just there. Tu Tien wraps her hands around it like it's heat she can borrow. Anna looks up and whispers, "Mommy, blink twice if you want me to talk less today." Tu Tien's mouth trembles, almost a smile. She blinks once, and Anna nods, serious, like she's been given a mission. That's the peace. Not perfect, not loud, but real. Justice doesn't arrive as a courtroom in this story. Justice arrives as a protocol list, a porch light, a man refusing to let intimidation rewrite his home, a little girl learning that love can be careful and smart. And I'll tell you what gets me about this family. Jack could have turned this into a panic. He could have made everyone scared and hypervigilant and broken the fragile healing they fought so hard for. But he doesn't. He chooses quiet. He chooses routine. He chooses structure. Because some things matter more than being fearless. Protecting your family. Protecting your child's sleep. Protecting your wife's nervous system when it's finally starting to breathe again. If this story pulled on something tender in you, stay close. Hit like, subscribe, and keep listening with me, because there are more families out there fighting for peace in small, stubborn ways, and they deserve to be heard.